Yes, our dear guest is lawyer Bassam from KPL Lawyers. Thanks so much, Bassam, for making the time once more to be here with us at the studios to explain to the community some of the changes that's been happening, of course, legally. And before we start, I just want your opinion about what's been taking place in Lebanon as far as peaceful protest and you know what's going on there. What's your view on that?
First and foremost, thank you for having me back. It's an honor to be present in your company. In respect to the issues relating to Lebanon, it's sad to see what Lebanon is presently experiencing. My personal view, I strongly support the protest and the people behind the protest. Recently came back from Lebanon. I was on holiday with my family in July. And one of the unfortunate thing and the sad thing that I had to express to some of the people there is, what is the role of government? What is the role of government if not to provide amenities to its citizens, and that being water, electricity, and roads? And unfortunately, Lebanon, so many years after it's received its independence, whether it be from France or whether it be from Syria, it still struggles to provide those simple life necessities: water, electricity, and roads. And that really lands on the feet of the politicians. So I give my 100% support to the people in Lebanon, and I ask them to continue to protest, and the people in Australia are well behind them.
Thanks, Bassam. Bassam, now we want to talk some legal issues, particularly the family law. The family law, of course, must have undergone a lot of changes or amendments. Can you just give us a brief idea? When we say family law, what does it cover in the first instance? Is it just the separation of families, or what is it?
So it's a very good question to start off with. Family law is broken up into three headings, just to simplify the process. The first is divorce. In order to divorce someone, you need to be separated for 12 months. The separation is from the date that you no longer live together. If you happen to still live in the same household, it gets a little bit complicated. But keeping it simple for present purpose, if you've been separated for 12 months, after 12 months, you can apply for divorce. Before that, you cannot apply for divorce in the state of New South Wales or in Australia, being a Commonwealth legislation. I should add that being a Maronite, we as lawyers seek to advise our clients to seek counsel from the church and seek counselling from others prior to engaging in that. Going down that road, because no one really benefits from a divorce. The children are always the victims of that separation. So the first heading, as I said, is divorce. The second heading that family law looks at is the property settlement. And the third heading is the children. If I can deal with the children first, when it comes to couples that are separated and they have children, it's very important to note that the court looks at what is the best interest of the child. It's not so much, the mother says, I want the children to live with me, or the father says, I want the children to live with me. The court looks at what is the best interest of the child. So it may very well be that the children serve a purpose to live with both parents. And therefore, they have an alternate arrangement, a week about arrangement. There is no set formula. It's not something that you can say, my friend, he sees his children on Saturdays and Sundays. How come I only get to see them on Wednesday? Because every circumstance is different. Every family environment is different. And you sit down with your client and you try and assess what best works for the children. So once you've established that system of what happens with the children, you turn to the third topic. And the third topic is the property settlement. The property settlement is a lot more complicated, but it really looks at what are the premarital assets, what assets did the party.
I want to take you back, Bassam,
Yes.
to the custodian of the children.
Yes.
Can you just elaborate a bit more on that point?
Look, in respect to the kids, their age plays a key role. If we're talking about children that are 1 or 2 years of age, the court takes a strong view that they should be with their mother, because that child needs one person in its life for coming through and rearing.
Yeah.
Once you start talking about kids attending school, the court takes a greater view that both parents should play a role. In circumstances where a father or a mother is violent towards the children, or there's drug abuse, or there's sexual abuse, then the court takes a very dim view of allowing any time spent for that child with that parents. but they're still entitled to spend time. Even fathers or mothers that have been in jail still have rights to see their kids, but it may very well be under supervised arrangement.
What if one of the parents refuse to honor or abide by that rule?
It's a good question. No parent has a right over a child. I'll give you a perfect example. When parties tend to separate, the mum takes the child and says to the father, you can't see him or see her. I always say to my clients, you can always have that child. When you have that child, see them at a shopping centre or see them at school, you can have that child to live with you. And even when the New South Wales Police attend your place of residence and the other parent is outside crying saying my child's been kidnapped, the New South Wales Police have no right to enter your home, have no right to take that child off you, because they have no jurisdiction, because you're the father of that child, you're the mother of that child, and you have every right to have that child live with you. The extent of the New South Wales Police is to actually attend the home, see that there's proper facilities for that child to live, there's food in the kitchen, there's a bed for that child to live, but beyond that, they have no rights or jurisdiction. So for a mother or a father to say to the other parent, I'm not going to let you see your child, it's an error in their mindset, and they're putting their personal views ahead of the child's views. So until the matter has been assessed or determined by a federal court, because we're talking about Commonwealth legislation, neither parent has a right to deprive the other parent from seeing the child.
So actually, when we're talking about human lives, it's so complicated, especially the children. What about property distribution? How does it work in such cases?
Once you've established that who the child or the children will reside with, then you look at the property distribution. Again, it's always been a myth within our culture that a wife or a parent would say to their son, you've got these properties, you married someone, she's going to get 50% of everything you have. That is not the case at all. The court is very clear in Australia as to what entitlements the other party has in respect of financial assets. In circumstances where there are no children, assume there are no children in a relationship, you've been married for less than 2 years, the other party is not going to receive anything or close to anything of your estate. So it's a myth just simply because you have a marriage certificate that they'll get 50% of your property. That is not the case at all. So the court looks at, what did you have before you got married? For example, you had a house, the house is paid off. So that's a substantial contribution on your part. The second step is, what did you bring in during the marriage? So you both work, you both have similar income, so that's equal there in that regard. And then the third step is, what are your future needs? So you both have good health, you both have a capacity to work, and there are no children in the relationship. Then you expect that in a short relationship, the other partner is not going to receive anything at all, in respect of your asset pool, because it is a very short marriage. But in circumstances when you're talking about a relationship of 30 years, that tends to change. Then, you can understand it's going to be a 50-50 split of the asset pool, because that's a long-term relationship. The other partner has not worked for a very long time. They've looked after the husband, or they've looked after the wife. They've stayed home, they've cooked, they've cleaned, and they take all that into consideration, because the role of the parent that stays home, whether it be male or female, is very important. It's a job in itself. So the court takes that into account in assessing property distribution.
I'm sure you deal with many people who say, for example, from Lebanon, and probably the husband or the wife would go to Lebanon in the case of separation. How difficult will this make it for you and for the legal system to settle the divorce or the separation?
If they take the children with them, it becomes extremely difficult, because Australia doesn't have rights at law with Lebanon as far as bringing children back or enforcing orders in Lebanon. So it makes it exceptionally difficult. You'll have to hire private investigators and the like to try and get the children back into the country, and that in itself could lead to criminal charges because you're breaching Lebanese law. And I think you've recently experienced that in Australia with a 60-minute reporter, where they went to Lebanon and tried to do something of similar nature about 4 years ago. But when it comes to property, it's not really very difficult, because all you need to establish is service. And if the other party refuses to cooperate or attend court, you just proceed to an undefended hearing. And you can apply to run the case here undefended. And the orders that you seek are the orders that are granted in your favour. So for a husband or a wife to run to Lebanon and bury the head in the sand is to their detriment. It does not help their case at all.
Right. Now, I mean, I can't thank you enough for giving us your time and to give us advice, and hopefully we'll do this on a regular basis in the future. But what I want to ask you, you find it difficult with some certain clients who don't understand the law? Is the media or is the government or charities or whoever explaining the laws properly to the community?
Look, there's it's a difficult question to answer. I always take the view to be upfront and forthright. I'll tell you what you need to know, and you may not be happy with what you hear. A lot of the clients that come to see me, I give them that advice, and they'll say, "Oh no, but I'm the mother. I want the child, or I'm the father. I shouldn't have to give her any money." But I'm very clear in the advice that I give, and sometimes I go searching for a solicitor or for somebody that will tell them what they need to hear. But at the end of the day, the law's the law, and the law's going to be applied according to legislation, and judges have a parameter of what they need to work with. So you might be led astray in the beginning, but eventually justice will prevail. One thing I would like your listeners to appreciate, when parties separate, it's very rare that parties separate on amicable terms. And generally, the police are involved because an apprehended violence order is applied. And this has become very prevalent in family law right now. Out of the hundreds of cases we have in family law, probably 90% have attached to them apprehended violence orders. And it's unfortunate that is the case because it's used as a mechanism to stop the other party from seeing the children. Because if the police are called to the home, an AVO is taken out by the police, whether it be to protect the wife or the husband, and that AVO generally incorporates the children in it, and that then places handcuffs upon your ability to contact the other person if there are provisions within the AVO that says you're not contact or approach. Therefore, how do you make arrangements to see the child? And if you don't have an agreement in place, by contacting the parent, you're breaching the AVO and you'll find yourself in the back of a paddy wagon. So I say to your listeners, if you are going through that difficult period, it's important to remain calm. It's important to remain in sound mind. If you feel that the situation is getting hostile, walk away from it, because an apprehended violence order is the worst thing that could happen to you in a family court proceeding, because it could very well mean it'll be 6 months before you get to see your child.
Bassam, thanks so much for your valuable information, valuable time, and we're looking forward to hearing from you and seeing you in the future. God bless you and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well done. I should sit here and listen to everybody that comes here. I enjoy it.